In late 4th century Alexandria, Egypt, amidst the turbulent relationship between Christians and pagans, Hypatia, an ardent philosopher, is keen on unraveling the mysteries of the universe. This is the historical tale of Alexandria, a part of the Roman Empire, and the events leading to a religious crisis amongst its Greco-Roman populace. Hypatia is a well-known astronomer, philosopher, mathematician, and a teacher at the Platonic school, where future leaders are educated. Hypatia, her father's slave, Davus, and two of her pupils, Orestes and Synesius, are immersed in the changing political and social landscape. One day, Hypatia speaks to her class about the wonders of astronomy and its heavenly cycles. Afterward, she asks a question to test the reasoning of her students. Two students, Orestes and Synesius, offer different answers to this question, but Hypatia dismisses these answers. She responds to her question by alluding to a grand force that unites existence, and the class ends. Nearby, at the Library of Alexandria, pagan chieftains worship their gods at the temple. Here, Orestes tries to spark a romantic connection with Hypatia, and they fall under the peering eyes of Davus, an enslaved person of Hypatia's family. Later on, at the Agora, the heart of the city, a crowd of people witness two men of conflicting religions arguing about the validity of their faiths. The man representing Christianity amuses the crowd by walking through a fiery path and exiting, without any injury. His cohorts drag the other man, who is of the pagan faith, into the fiery path, and its flames almost consume him. Hypatia's father, Theon, a pagan worshipper, who is a part of the crowd, frowns deeply at the scene. At his home, Theon finds a cross-shaped pendant, and questions his slaves about its ownership. An enslaved woman proves to be the culprit, but Davus quickly intervenes, and receives the punishment instead. At night, Hypatia approaches Davus and helps soothe his wounds. A particular object catches her gaze in his room, and she moves towards it. She quickly recognizes this object as a model of the Ptolemaic system and is astonished to discover that Davus created it. The next day, Davus expounds on the Ptolemaic system to Hypatia's class. The majority of her students are amazed by this theory. However, Orestes does not buy into the idea and regards it as whimsical. Synesius, a Christian, is offended by his statements, and a brawl nearly ensues between the two. However, Hypatia can restore peace, and she reminds her students about the importance of equality. At the market, a Christian soldier, Ammonius, is preaching to a crowd of mixed believers. Davus is a part of this crowd and is interested in understanding how Ammonius performed a recent miracle. Recall that Ammonius was the one who walked through fire and came out unharmed. Ammonius singles Davus out from the crowd, and the two engage in dialogue. Ammonius takes Davus to the Christian temple, where he claims prayer was the source of his miracle. He directs Davus to give bread to the homeless Christians, stating that such an act is a miracle. Further along, Alexandria's elites are entertained by a theatrical display at the local playhouse. However, at an intermission, Orestes takes the stage and professes his love for Hypatia through music. The next day, as a rejection of his public display of affection, Hypatia presents Orestes with a handkerchief, stained by the blood of her menstrual flow. This act infuriates Orestes, and he storms out of the class. Simultaneously, a messenger informs Hypatia and her students of an emergency meeting at the pagan temple, the Serapeum. At the temple, Olympus, a pagan chieftain, briefs the gathering about the atrocities performed by Christians against pagan gods. He charges the crowd to take action and ambush the Christians with weapons, but Hypatia strongly opposes this movement. Nevertheless, with Theon's word of confirmation, the pagans gear up for a clash against the Christians. At the Agora, Theophilus, the bishop of Alexandria, and other Christians, start verbally insulting the statues of the pagan gods. The pagans, including Orestes and Theon, ambush the Christians. In the ensuing battle, the pagans unexpectedly find themselves outnumbered by a large Christian mob. Theon is gravely injured, and Hypatia and the pagans take refuge in the library of Alexandria. Here, Olympus gives the order to imprison all Christians amongst Hypatia's students, but Orestes boldly comes to their aid. However, at night, Synesius and the other Christian students sneak out of the library. Several days pass, and as the pagans take refuge in the library, waiting for the prefect's order, the Christians also camp outside, intending to strike at any moment. One night, Hypatia and the remainder of her students passively debate over astronomical concepts. Davus joins the conversation, and the group discusses the prospects of the heliocentric model, proposed by Aristarchus, being a more suitable explanation for planetary movements. The Christian siege of the library ends, when an envoy of the Roman Emperor Theodosius I declares that the pagans are pardoned, and the Christians shall be allowed to take possession of the library. Hypatia and the pagans flee while trying to save the most important scrolls, before the Christians overtake the library and destroy its contents. Davus chooses to join the Christian forces. Following their exit, the Christians barge into the library, and rid it of all pagan properties. Later at night, Davus approaches Hypatia and forcefully grabs her to satisfy his sensual desires. He had always longed for her but kept his emotions private. However, he loses the will, and Hypatia removes his slave collar and tells him that he is free. Eventually, the practice of paganism in Alexandria became a punishable offense, and Christianity became the major religion of the city. Several years later, Theophilus dies, and Cyril, his nephew, takes over as the Bishop of Alexandria. Also, Davus becomes a member of the Christian army, the Parabolani. On a particular Sabbath, the Parabolani proceed to the local theater, where Jewish citizens are holding a festivity, and ambush them with stones. This act triggers the Jews, and Jewish and Christian leaders appear before the new prefect of Alexandria, Orestes. Cyril's words at the meeting enrage the Jewish leaders even more, and Orestes tries to contain the situation. However, the Jews take offense at the Christians' audacity, and march out of the prefect's palace. Later, Orestes, now converted to Christianity, accompanies Hypatia on an experimental voyage. He tells her about the incident at his palace, and Hypatia grows suspicious of Cyril. Her experiment yields significant results, but that night's later impediment causes Hypatia great distress. At the Library of Alexandria, which has now become a Christian edifice, Hypatia continues to investigate the motions of the sun, the moon, the 5 known wanderers or planets, and the stars. Some Christians ridicule the thinking that the earth is a sphere, by arguing that people far from the top would fall off the earth. However, due to religious objections against heliocentrism, the Christians have now forbidden Hypatia to teach at the school. When they ask Davus what his opinion is, he avoids conflict by saying that only God knows these things. Then, far-off voices signal their attention to a fire outbreak, and they hurriedly move toward the scene. However, this call is only a plot by the Jews, and many Christian soldiers are stoned to death in retaliation. A mass funeral is held for the dead soldiers, and Cyril incites the Christians against the Jews. The Christians turn rogue and violently oppress all Jewish citizens. This causes the members of the Alexandrian assembly to hold a meeting. Subsequently, the Christians killed numerous Jewish citizens, and those who remained were exiled. Hypatia's former pupil, Synesius, now the bishop of Cyrene, travels to Alexandria in the hopes of restoring peace. He reunites with Hypatia and Orestes, discussing approaches toward countering to Cyril's plans. At another meeting, Christian members of the Alexandrian assembly urged the non-Christians to accept Christianity, prompting Hypatia to speak up against such injustice. At night, Orestes seeks to capture Hypatia's love and attention, but her mind is more focused on understanding the universe's workings. On the next Sabbath, Cyril uses biblical scriptures to condemn Hypatia indirectly, and this doesn't sit well with Orestes. When Cyril asks to kneel before the Bible, Orestes declines, which sets the church into a frenzy. As Orestes walks out, Ammonius flings a stone that hits him in the head, and injures him. Afterward, his guards execute Ammonius, and they advise Hypatia to remain indoors. Synesius visits Orestes at his palace, and they battle out their grievances with words. At the Christian temple, a funeral is held for Ammonius, and Cyril declares him both a martyr and a saint. At the library, Cyril convinces a mob of Christians that Hypatia is a witch, and they vow to kill her. While indoors, Hypatia theorizes that the Earth orbits around the Sun in an elliptic orbit, not a circular orbit, with the Sun at one of the focuses. Finally, Hypatia makes an exciting breakthrough, and Aspasius praises her on this. The following day, Synesius and Orestes invite Hypatia to a meeting and urge her to become a Christian, but she gently refuses. At the same time, Davus tries to run ahead to warn Hypatia, but she is captured. They strip Hypatia and are about to skin her alive, until Davus persuades the mob otherwise, and they decide to stone her instead. When the mob goes outside to collect stones, Davus suffocates her to spare her the pain of being stoned, and tells the mob that she fainted. Davus leaves as they begin to stone her. The story of Hypatia and the leaders of Alexandria in the late 4th century raises much controversy among historians and theologians worldwide. However, it is known that Hypatia's remarkable works in astronomy aided future astronomers such as Johannes Kepler in accurately describing the principles of planetary motion. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories like this one. We would like to know your thoughts about this story in the comments section down below. A like and share are also welcomed. Have a nice day.